Hey, hello everyone. I am so sorry. Show starting late. Hello, Mr. H.
How are you?
Um, I am so sorry. It's been a tough day for me. Um, so I just stopped to rest a bit, but I overslept. So I
Oh, shoot.
apologize. I I'm exhausted. I sincerely apologize. So everyone who's watching, because I know normally we do the whole show and everything, putting on the music, but you know, there's no point doing any of that. So how are you? Let's dive in quickly. How are you? How was your day, Mr. H?
It's okay. We can. Yeah, my day was okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, Mr.
Can you hear me?
H. Oh,
Yeah, can you hear me now?
yes, I can
Yeah,
hear
can you hear
you.
me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, my day was okay. Everything's going. Just everything's okay. And yours?
It's been my day was started sort of okay. I went to college, but then I had a bit of an asthma situation.
Mm,
So that just scattered the rest of the day. You know how it can be when you've been struggling to breathe and everything.
mm,
So when I came home, I just managed to put food in my mouth and I just went to sleep. I set the alarm, but then somehow I slept through the alarm again. So yeah, it's just been our usual DJ Wiki, he's away, so he's not around. Normally he would have stepped in.
mm.
Cheryl Torres, thank you. Hi again. I apologize for starting so late. I apologize because at least this is a good 9:15 or so before it started. Django Fett, hello. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Chris will be joining us soon to continue, where he stopped about cases that he's dealing with at the moment. Well, cases that he's been dealing with concerning, child molestation and things like that. And, I had hoped that I would be able to get. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful that, you still stayed around even though the show didn't start on time. I apologize. It's just been one of them days. I'm asthmatic, and unfortunately, when you spent a good chunk of about an hour trying to breathe, when you manage to sleep, you don't even know that things are happening. So, Mr. H, you weren't around last week when we were talking about child abuse and molestation.
Mm.
Um, but I'm sure you caught on with the show. You saw a bit of it at some point. And we had, oh, yeah. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you that you said health. Aha, Dr. Chris is here. Yeah, he's actually a professor, Professor Chris Aimaku. He's based in. Hello,
Good evening.
he's
How are you?
based. Good evening, Doc. Let's see your face now.
No, where I am, you can't see my face.
Okay, okay, no problem. As long as we are hearing you. I
How about you?
apologize. Oh, I spoke with you and I fell asleep on this. Like when I said, please don't forget, I fell asleep. Like you're the last person I spoke with.
Sorry about that.
So before you come on, I just want to quickly speak with Mr. H. So Mr. H, you work with children's charities. You have a children's charity of your own based in South Africa. And you go around and you talk to young people, you talk to adults and everything. Have you ever come across situation where you hear of children being abused or molested?
I've heard that before, and it's a very punishable offense in South Africa. and some of the contributing factors are, drugs and alcohol, where you find out that stepfathers, cousins, or maternal parents abuse
Mm.
their child, or and it's in a form of rape, in a form of sexual harassment. But sometimes this thing doesn't come out on time. It takes time, because sometimes, if especially if the child is dependent on the adult, and they don't want to lose their place, their bread, where they get their daily bread from, or maybe what they are getting from the house. Sometimes they are told to keep quiet, and sometimes they are being bribed. But right now in South Africa, there's a campaign for that, for ladies, women, girls to speak out. It's over the radio every day. You hear it up, even if you go to the mall, it's written there boldly. If you go to the garages, written there boldly. Even when you buy your shopping bag in the mall, you go somewhere and you buy groceries. If on the label on the shopping bag you carry home, is written there boldly the number to call and who to go and meet. And I'm always against child abuse in whatever any form, either male or female, because I believe nobody should abuse a child, because a child is innocent, and people shouldn't take advantage of that, no matter what, if probably you're a guardian or you are whoever to the child. So, but it's very, very sorry to use this word. It's very, very disgusting when you hear a child being abused or being molested. And it happens in most places in Africa, where these crimes are covered up, because of the family don't want to be shamed, or the family don't want their dirty linen to be spread outside. And this is why I make sure that I advocate for against this act. And we can and I think this thing is becoming rampant in Nigeria, where when you read the news in Nigeria, mostly if you go to Facebook, Punch or Guardian, you hear this 80-year-old man is maybe impregnated, maybe a 14-year-old, 16-year-old. And sometimes you see that these families try to cover it up, or maybe in a home they take a house girl, and
Mm.
the father is whatever, the head of the house is abusing the girl, and they take it out there, and they say, no, don't say it out, because if you say it out, they will chase you out of the house. We need to begin to stand up and defend all this. Whether it doesn't matter if it's to me, everybody needs to be treated equally. Whether you're a helper or you're a caregiver, everybody rights needs to be respected and withheld in any constitution of any country at any given time in point. So
Mm.
let me just give you a scenario, something in where we come from. Why I'm using Nigeria for an example is that we have this how do you call it, this thing that's with us, that if such things happen, we do not take it very, very hard, just like the this Baba Jesha thing. No, no, and about the little girl,
Yeah.
and people who were for and people were against. But in my own candid opinion, even if it was a setup, Baba Jesha has no right to touch
Mm.
little girl, because the girl is underage. Anywhere in the world, even in South Africa here, if you touch any underage and they find out that the girl is underage, whether she gives you consent or not, you will stand for it.
Mm.
It doesn't matter whether it's set up, maybe the girl likes you or doesn't like you, because every country has their own age. Some countries are 18, some are 21. So just like when you give kids alcohol too, to seduce them, or when you begin to do your sugar daddy, when people do sugar daddy and entice girls. So this thing is a problem generally. It's not probably only in Africa, all over the whole world, where you
Yeah.
see that men and women, they abuse kids, they abuse children under their care, because
Mm.
maybe guardians, or maybe because they are providing for the kids, so they want to take advantage. You hear a child as young as 12 years old getting pregnant for somebody that is 60 or 70 years old. It's That's an atrocity, and that's why I advocate that the laws should be tightened. Like people that do that, they should be sentenced to maybe life imprisonment. And let me add this last thing I want to say before
Mm.
I leave the floor open. There was a time that I don't know if it's a senator in Nigeria married a very very young girl,
Mm-hmm.
and people were saying no, she's too young and too young. People were saying no, it's religion, and there was a controversy there, and some people were laughing over it. It's not something to laugh over. What
At
is
all.
wrong, and we need to, as adults or in the society as leaders. And I'm also a religious leaders where you know I go to do prison ministry, and I encounter a lot of people in prison, and you see that they are there for this kind of crimes, for rape or assault, child molestation. And sometimes it's because of the broken society. It's because they are from the broken home, and when they are doing this thing, the people around them don't see it as wrong. They just think it's something that is normal.
Hello?
That's something that is normal. They are catching phone, they are catching cruise, and when it's on TV. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I can hear you. I can
yes.
hear you.
So, yeah. Sorry, I when we went out. So what I'm saying is that, and it happens in every part of the world, and I just want the authorities to advocate that the law should be tightened on this kind of crime, and the crime should be um, it should be on high priority. Like in South Africa here, they have made sure that it's a high priority crime. When you are taken to court, you make sure you are there. I've seen people it is not until recently that the South African government begin to take this crime very, very seriously. Because I've seen people in prison that have gotten 30 years, 40 years for this kind of, child molestation and things like that. And so I am saying it that we should advocate for the child's right, because I do this charity thing, and when I go to like the last time I went, which was it last week that I went for the charity thing. I went there 2 weeks ago to ask them what they probably need, because sometimes I don't want to go buy things that they wouldn't need. So I met those ladies
Mm-hmm.
there. There's some girls there that from they're 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So I had the opportunity to sit down with them, and I spoke to them at length. And I told them, look, I do you know me, I come around all the time. I want you guys to make a specialist. I want to make a specialist for you guys, so that we can provide like roll-on, sanitary pad,
Century
all those
towels.
things.
Yeah.
Yes. So and they said, "Oh, thank you, brother." And they gave me a list of all those things. So the last time we went last week, we went there and we bought those things and we took them there. I separated them. Then when I saw the little girls, the one that is 12 years old, the one that's 14 years old, they said the other ones have not come back from school. I gave it to them. And why we do these things, because we don't want them to go about asking younger men for all these
Mm,
little, because it's that the old age home, the woman is really trying a lot, so it's not everything that the woman can provide. And it's like
mm.
it's like a location, because as I was explaining to the the other lady from the group, when she contacted me, I said to her that they don't provide all these things for her. They're for them, and they are just trying their best. And I said to her, it's like a location. She said, what's the location? I said, a location is just like when you have like Morocco in Nigeria, Ajegule in
Mm,
Nigeria. We have that
mm,
is and the place is Uber. It's better than us, our place, because there's still electricity, there's water, and the roads inside that place are very good. But it's overcrowded, and you see all this teenage pregnancy, you see alcohol abuse, because they have different kind of
of
tavern
course.
in all around the whole place. So I made it a point of contact to make sure that we cater for them. So with the last time, last week, we bought a lot of sanitary pad and I gave it to them. And I asked them and I told them the next time I'm coming, the one we bought for them will last them maybe till the end of this month, so that by the time we go
Mm.
back, would that is the kind of thing we need to stand for these kids that that they don't have a voice. And if and I'm praying to God that one day I'll hold a very a big position in politics in Nigeria, in my state, in Kogi State, and I want to make it a point of
Mm.
view that kids shouldn't be hawking, no matter
At all.
what age. Yeah, they shouldn't be hawking on the street, because when you go to Nigeria, or Lagos, you see a child as 5, 6 hawking, and we need to put it in our constitution, because
Yes.
I'm in South Africa. I've never one day seen a child hawking anything, no matter how bad it is, because it is prohibited. It is against the law. If you are caught doing that as a parent or as a guardian, you will go in for it. And they have made it it's mandatory and everybody knows. So you don't see a child hawking on the street or selling this thing after school, because they have a rule here that you can't just come out, you cannot do that, and everybody's adhering to it. So we need to begin to, in our society and in our community, we need to begin to enforce these things. If
Yes.
you bring a child to life, if you bring a child to life, you must be able to stand and take care of the child. You don't just keep giving birth to children that you cannot take care of. Then at the end of the day, you make them a nuisance. You make them suffer for the sin they didn't commit. You know what I mean? Putting them out there to sell for you, for your own self gain. And at the end of the day, when they enter house to house to house to house, you will see all these adults that they are not ashamed of themselves. These pedophiles begin to touch them and begin to abuse them. Sometimes it's the guardians and the parents, it's our fault that we allow them, we expose them to those kind of harsh conditions. If you want to go and sell Ogi, go and sell it yourself. If you want to go and sell Akara, go and sell it yourself. You don't put
Exactly.
it through that torture. So that is my only two take, and that is what I stand for, and that is what I would stand for anywhere, any child, because I have two female daughters, and I wouldn't want anybody to abuse them, and I stand for them anytime, any day. So I think every parent would want to stand for their own, for their child, even if it's a guardian. Maybe the children, they don't have fathers or they keep them by you. You should be able to treat them well, because they are human beings, and you don't know what tomorrow may be. About 20 years ago, they used to tell us in school that we are the future of tomorrow. And today is today we should stand up and say we are the future of today. So that's my own take on the matter.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. H. That's you've really given a lot of deep insight into these things, because a lot of people think that, oh, these things are exaggerated. What is it safe? Women, they always look for one reason or the other to shall say that men are bad, and it's got nothing to do with that. You know, men, both male and female children are molested, but we know that is more women that this thing happens to
Mm,
than men. Or maybe men don't report as much, but reported cases are more of girls. And when you now look at the background, oh, and the parents being careless, or poverty, because again, poverty unfortunately is one of the things that causes all this nonsense for a lot of people, because they then send their kids out into the streets to go and make money. Children shouldn't be working. And that's why I really like what we're saying about children labor laws, that you can't put a child to work. Why should a child be working? So things like that need to be put in place. But then, like you rightly said, a senator in Nigeria went and married an underage child, and everybody was like, oh, it's a religious thing. it, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter whether someone is of one religion or the other. A child is a child. It doesn't matter what religion they're under. Therefore, a child should be protected, irrespective of whatever religion it is that they are under. But a lot of things get excused by people in power, people who get bored. we were talking about this outside of the show, that why is it that some people find children attractive, and it's like, well, they've done everything, so children are the last frontier of what can I do that is, a child. And it's like, it's madness of the highest order. I really hope that um Abifa should be joining us soon, because there are some questions that I want to ask, especially because she's a parent, and about the things that she does to take care and keep an eye on her kids. So before I bring Professor Chris on, I actually spoke with Princess. Unfortunately, she couldn't come on because today happens to be quite a heavy, intensive day for her. But we have her foundation, because she, especially after the Baba Jebu case, which was hard work, like she got abused, and it's part of the reason why she's had to relocate to the UK, because can imagine something as cut and clear and dry case as that, and yet people still found the excuses, found reasons to be insulting the girl, and saying, the girl she's not a small child, or she's a grown girl, she's this, she's that. And I'm like, I don't understand. A child is a child. Once you say this person is not an adult, they're a child. And you hear people saying, I want to see the video, I want to see this, I want to see that. It's like, are you okay? It reminds me of the Chrisland situation also, when some kids were taken abroad for some events, and a young child was involved in some some sex situation, which of course we kept trying to point out that a child doesn't suddenly know about sex unless somebody has been molesting them. And adults were sharing the video and watching the video and commenting that, the girl is a pro, the girl is this, the girl is that. I'm like, first of all, that you as an adult can actually sit down and watch such a video, there's something fundamentally wrong with you, and to then be in fact, when I think about it, it's just driving me mad. But you know what, let me just bring Professor Chris. Prof, hey, welcome, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know you ran home specifically for this show. Thank you so much. Thank you. Because last week he was actually at work. He stayed over at work when he should have actually closed and gone home. He stayed over at work just so that he could, tell us about what was going on where he works and things that he has seen. And you have heard Mr. H. Mr. H is in South Africa. Professor Chris is in Ibadan, in Nigeria. I'm in the UK here. And you've heard what Mr. H has got to say to you, has got to say about this situation, about the things that he himself has experienced. So, Professor Chris, can you please, I think I'll just stick with doctor, because of course you're a prof, but I love Dr. Chris. So, Dr. Chris, please talk to us about now a bit more briefly about things that you have seen. But then because I, as a survivor, I can talk about the impact it has done to me. However, you are involved in the psychology of children, dealing with a lot of girls or people, children who have dealt with this thing, and having to testify on their behalf, having to have conversations with them. So can you first of all give us a recap of the things you've seen, and then tell us from your experience, what is the long-term damage that happens?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. H, for your wonderful contributions. I learned quite a lot from your contributions, and also Abby for what you said. And this thing, we are constantly being educated. Child abuse, of course, goes both ways. Girls can be abused, boys can be abused. I remember I was abused when I was probably maybe like 6 or 7 by our so-called house help, who was doing things to me way back in the 70s, and it was later on I realized that what she was doing to me was abusing me. But maybe then, of course, we all kept quiet. Nowadays people talk, And of course, like you rightly said, it's a more of things that girls happen to boys. Of course, social media has helped us to realize things. And of course, the concept of everybody speaking out now has made children bolder. So children tend to be bolder. Now, it's a very sick society. I mean, finding out that people gain pleasures from little ones. Sometimes I ask myself, I say, you can see how beautiful girls are and how handsome guys are. Why is it that people want to go that low to fondle with kids that are probably under the age of 10 or even under the age of 12? And like Mr. H, who has two daughters, I have two daughters. So I always feel trashed up when I quiver when I see such things or I hear such things. Back to my experience. I mean, it can be damaging when you hear a lot of stories because they come from different directions. Okay, it's most times when it happens to girls, it's most times it is the problem or the concept of trying to give the child something in return. So it's like gratification. Sometimes people keep quiet because they give them money. And like you said, poverty sometimes has a role to play, but sometimes it doesn't have a role to play. Some guys are just generally sick. You know, you expect somebody who is well educated, has a good job, has a good family. I mean, how do you explain a guy who has 3 kids, including a kid who is married, and he gets sexual pleasures from an 11-year-old? I mean, when you see that kind of constant thing happening, you ask yourself, what is it? But like I said, people are generally have some sick traits in them, and sick traits in them that they do all sorts of things. Now, when we do see it in our practice, I mentioned last week, I said there was a period where some 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-olds were being molested in a place called Liole area in Ibadan. And we had a series of about 6, 7, 8 kids, all girls. Same mode of operation. They'll be coming from school. Then one will be lonely on the road. That one gets harassed, gets sexually harassed, and then, of course, probably get bruised because the guy is trying to put his genitals into her anus or something, and then she struggles and all that. So we had a series of cases like that. But you know, the way the laws are and the way things go in Nigeria, you don't have nobody will try to follow up on such cases. So those patients, those girls come to the hospital, right, because of the injury they went to, and then the psychological trauma they've gone through. So probably they want to get a psychologist to see. But the damage has already been done. I mean, we all can remember our very first sexual experience. Some may have been nice, some may have been bad. I remember Betty Wright saying that some people have to think way back in our song tonight. But for these little kids, they don't have to think way back. It is damaging. Okay. It tips them into sexual perversion sometimes later in life. So it makes a life-changing impact on them. So they get raped very, 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 very early in life. So some of them either get withdrawn or some of them continue on that line. So it has a lot of damaging effect to these kids. And many of them don't do well. A lot of them don't do well. A lot of them take it out on men. I mean, you watch some fiction and sometimes true stories on TV of somebody who was molested and of course gets involved in those things. Then for me, the one that hits me so badly is teenage pregnancy or sexually transmitted infections, which we do see. Many of these men are very ruthless. They deposit the whole semen into these tiny girls. I mean, and of course, it's a 50-50 thing. Sometimes they get pregnant. I've seen 13-year-old girls pregnant, 14-year-olds pregnant, you know, a 15-year-old coming to meet me and saying, look, please, doctor, can you do a termination for my child? My child is pregnant. And you see, this is a baby, you know, getting pregnant. And then when you get to find out who the person is who has assaulted her, somebody who's probably twice her age. You know, I remember once reggae song that I'm in love with a guy who is a girl who's a guy who's 12 my age, 12 my age or something like that. So when you look at it in perspective, it's damaging. And some of them report so late, so they're already like 7 months pregnant. So they go ahead and have that child. I have one now who is so sad. She's HIV positive. She's 17 or 18. She's pregnant. She's about 34 weeks pregnant. and she's under my care. And of course, when I first saw her and they brought her to me, I was expecting to hear, um, of course, she was abused by, she has an elderly person who claims to be responsible for the pregnancy. So he's ready to take care of her, in terms of all her needs, because according to him, he likes her. And and it's so sad to say that when I put her on the one-on-one situation with my nurse and my psychologist, and I just jokingly said, apart from this guy, who else have you slept with? She gave me a series of like 6, 7 people. And I asked myself, but she said, okay, she's been faithful to this guy for the past almost a year. So she can almost assure that this is the guy responsible, and you look at it and you say, this guy is an elderly person. He has his own family. What kind of impression does he have? I had another one, and I'll end up with this one. This guy is a big guy in Ibadan, and there was this 17, 18-year-old girl who was a school leaver who was living in the area. So the guy gets driven, big guy, he gets on his car takes him to work, chauffeur driven to work. And then he comes back at about 10 o'clock, takes the car from the driver, comes back to his area at about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, when his wife and kids have gone to school and everybody has gone to school. Then he creeps into this girl's house. She lives with her brother and her brother's wife who has gone to work. And then he has sex with the girl. And he does that. And this guy is about 50 or 50 plus. And the girl is about, like I said, 17 or 16, 17. And he was doing that constantly for like 6, 7, 8 months, almost regularly. Of course, she was looking good. He was spending money on her. Now, when she now got pregnant, she didn't tell him until she was about 32 weeks pregnant. She was a little bit on the chubby side, so people didn't really know. And the brother she was staying with, wasn't too observant of the girl, And then she got pregnant. And of course, when she got pregnant, they beat her up and all that. So it's declared that it was this guy who was in the neighborhood she was pregnant for. So, of course, the guy took responsibility. He admitted, yes, I enjoyed the girl. She's sweet. She's a young girl. And of course, his wife got to know, and the whole neighborhood got to know. And then he says, don't worry, I'll take care of the child. So they bought, of course, he started satisfying not just the girl, but of course the brothers and everybody else who was hanging around the girl claimed that this old guy should, when they have any bills to pay, they just meet the guy, bros, give me 10K, bros, 15K, bros, give me this. And that's how it was going.
So money making machine now.
They were making money from the guy. The guy was a rich young guy. Anyway, to cut the long story short, a lab opened in Ibadan called Pathcare, and they started doing genetic studies. Of course, the guy started looking at this kid and was wondering. Of course, they started hearing stories that this girl was having issues around the same time with a few guys around the area. By the time the kid was growing up, and his friend said, "Bros, go and do a study. Go and check this your child out. That you're spending too much money on this child." So anyway, they grabbed the girl, grabbed the child. He himself went to Pathcare, took their blood samples. The samples had to be taken to South Africa then, because of course we didn't have the technology here. So they freight the samples. It took like 4 weeks for the samples came out, and they came out and they said, "There's a very high tendency that this is not your child."
Wow.
So he now, of course, his friends now came around him and accosted the girl, and they started hearing that, she was with somebody, she was with that and everything. And you can imagine that kind of trauma. And of course, the guy had lost his wife. His wife had left him. His children who were elderly, like 18, 19, 20-year-old children, embarrassed. Their father was involved in those kind of things. So you can imagine the financial drain that has happened to that guy and the wreckage of the family. I mean, that's to the even older guy, not even to the small girl. And of course, the young girl was dropped out of school, started doing hairdressing things, and never made anything good with her life. So those are just some short stories of how this impact can be made. That's happened. And of course, we have the very, very low age girls, 10 years old, 9-year-olds, who don't even have breast buds, who don't have any buttock, who don't have anything at all. I mean, like I told the story last week, I asked one of my resident doctors who was suturing a girl who had a tear on her vulva from a guy who had a manhood of about 10 inches, wanted to put the whole thing in there. And when he showed me the girl, he said, doc, to say, doc, my chief, that's what they were calling me, my doctor. See this small girl, he raised her up, 11-year-old girl, had nothing. I mean, you know what we mean by no attack, no defense.
Nothing.
I asked him, nothing. I mean, just a tiny girl, just red, and I asked myself, what is this 61-year-old guy enjoying with this girl? You know, tiny squeaky voice, nothing, and but just like I said, it's just a society. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Doc. Please don't go yet, so because I'm sure there's questions. Now I'm just going
No,
into
I'm not going.
comments section, and I'm seeing that Zainab Atta, thank you so much for joining. She said, the culture of silence, stigmatization, shame, poverty enables child abuse. And she's so right. And Cheryl says, I was on an IG live yesterday where this was being discussed. A man told the story and others followed. It should be an ongoing conversation for sure. Now, I'm sure Mr. H, you've seen where, gotten into kinds of conversations where, it's almost like if something happens to a woman, like rape or molestation, is based around what was she wearing? What was she doing there? Blah, blah. But okay, if we want to be asking grown women, that's why were you in this situation? Okay, even though I don't agree, fine. What about children that are just minding their business? They're just playing, being sent on errand, whatever it is, and some guy looks at a child and goes, this one is sweet, this one is young, this one is fresh. And then gets that child, deceives them because children are gullible, of course. Says, oh, come into my house. I want to give you something to do and give your mother. Or come into my house and let me show you something. And next thing, they start to molest this child. And what a lot of people don't understand is that kind of situation happens. That person has power over you because they don't just, it's not usually just a thing of opportunity that I was not planning on molesting a girl, or I just saw this girl, I just quickly grabbed the opportunity. It's usually planned. They've been looking, they've been watching, they've been timing and hoping that there'll be a time when they can be able to grab that child. They've been studying the movements of the parents to see, okay, of the temperament of the parents, to say, okay, if I use this to frighten this child about their parents, that can keep them silent. And it happens all over the place. And I'm like, okay, if we're going to be blaming women for whatever they're wearing, what about babies? 3-month-old babies. Cheryl is saying even babies as young as 3 months old. Doctor is talking about a small child being sewn because the man's privates were too big to fit into her body, because she's a child. She's not supposed to even be having that kind of experience. So what is it that the child did? What was it that she was wearing that was so sexy that the man couldn't control himself? He just had to sleep with her. Because when we're having that conversation of, is it a woman's fault, irrespective of whatever she's wearing, or is it a child's fault, irrespective of whatever they're wearing?
Let me just, Abby, let me just say something quickly there, because
Yeah.
I can see, the thing is that, as I said, we have this kind of a mindset, sometimes you listen to people, what they say, and you just believe it. That is the thing, because sometimes you hear people sleeping with the kids. I see 3 months here, and there's a myth out there that if you sleep with them and you are sick, you'll be cured. I don't know if you heard it before. That's what I'm telling you.
No, what is the logical relationship?
It's what people hear, that okay, if you are sick or you have a kind of disease and you sleep with a baby, you will be cured. That is a kind of a myth, and people go by this, and these people, some people are very delusional. Some people are very evil, and that is why for
Hello.
For this kind of thing to be sorted out is for the government to bring a very strict law, that we guide against this thing, irrespective if there is consent, irrespective of if maybe the girl says yes or no. If it is above, if it is below the age limit, you go to jail for it. As I said, I've been to the prison system several times. I've been there almost 50 times, and you see people there. And before in South Africa, they do it and get away free, but nowadays they get 50 years, 100 years, 40 years. They
Good.
they're they're setting the pace. We need the government that will set the pace, because if you don't set the pace, people will continue doing it. It is when you don't put a tight law over something, people begin to misbehave. People are not
Yes.
disciplined about it. I was giving an example one day. I said during Nigeria 99, when we hosted that cup, you see that when they said no, don't throw papers away, Ikeja was spotlessly clean. People were not
Yeah.
peeing because they knew what is going to happen to them. In Nigeria or everywhere in the world, like South Africa, they've started tightening it. They don't play. If a lady goes to the police here, or even call the security, that is all the security patrol that drive, that look after the street, that all this patrol. If you stop them, if a lady comes downstairs now from this apartment I'm staying in and comes down and stop any van, any security, not even police, and tell them somebody molested me in that flat X, just give them 5 minutes.
Hmm.
What they will do is they will take the lady straight to the police station. They have a section of the police station that they have a call it a rape kit. It's always there.
Mm.
When you get there, they will give, that's the first thing they will give to you and take you to the hospital first of all. Then they will go and pick the person up. Whether the person touch you or doesn't touch you, the person will be where. What I'm very sure about in South Africa, you'll be in prison for 3 years first of all before they will finish your case. They will teach you a lesson. So, and they've created the awareness. So our government need to create the awareness, and people need to be taught, even in churches, in mosques. You need to tell them that this thing is very, very wrong, and you need to stand firm. Anybody that is found doing those things need to be punished, whether you are 60 or you are 100, or you have money or you don't have money. People need
No
to be like, look,
money.
okay, let us look at um, 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 the this guy, this Ned Nwoko that married the actress.
Mm-hmm.
It's so in any society, but what do we have in our country? Some people were saying, no, it's good. Even the parents of the child were supporting the child. Hey, it's fine. No, the mother had the black backlash. Everybody was shouting, and at the end of the day, the mother said, no, it's fine. She gave the consent. It is wrong between man and God anywhere you
Ex-
go, regardless about whether is rich or not, because you are setting the pace. Because you are setting the pace. People are watching you. Tomorrow, if another person do it and you go and talk, they say, "But you did it. They did it last time. You didn't say anything."
mm-hmm.
And these things are going. You hear very stupid things that if you have cancer and you sleep with a baby, or you have HIV and you sleep with a baby, you'll be cured. You can Google it. It is the
Doesn't,
main
but
thing.
I'm even trying to understand where the sense, like, what is the baby's body medicine? Because I
It
don't
is
understand.
that is exactly what people are telling people, and people want to try them, which is very, 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 very wrong. Look at what Prof just said now, that the lady that they are trying to that got pregnant and she's sick and this thing, and now maybe what of it, maybe, and this lady probably she maybe have slept with other guys in that locality, other guys, because of she couldn't be stopped, because even the man cannot stop himself to have done that to the girl, and the girl has said, okay, it's an in thing, let me do it. And hear what Prof said just now. He said he too was molested too.
Hmm.
So this thing is it happens in everywhere, but a lot of
Yeah.
people keep quiet. Some people don't really want to say that because they fear stigmatization. Some people don't want to say, oh, he's the one that's paying my school fees. They're putting food on the table. If I go and say the father is touching me now, they drive me outside. What would I say? And some people will even go and let's go. I've heard a story on Facebook that even the child went to tell her own biological mother to see that this house you say I should go and help them to as
They are
house help.
touching me.
And the mother said, what are you saying? Are you going to buy food in this house? Is it not the one that is paying you that we are using, And the child too kept quiet until the child got pregnant, until the whole family scattered, until the child had to go to Lagos somewhere else to go and deliver the child again. And it was a whole chain of events, a whole chain of mess up. The community, the church, everybody was suspended. It's because of this kind of thing. Poverty, poverty, poverty
But
in
poverty is a
schooling
big issue.
is,
However,
is,
it's not the only issue. Because again, I have heard of
mm,
women whose children will come and tell them, Mommy, brother Kiniko down the street is touching me. When you send me on message, he will ask me to come inside the house and all of that. And this thing, I don't understand why a lot of, and I can only speak again about the people that I know. Nigerian mothers feel that it's that if their daughters come to tell them, and that is why a lot of daughters don't go and say anything when they're being molested. That's why a lot
mm,
of sons also don't say anything, because for sons it can be weird, because you now hear the father say, you're not a big boy. The boy is being molested. He has no business knowing about sex. He's too young. But then he's, you're not a big boy. And meanwhile, the girl that has been molested is beaten up. She's beaten, she's punished, she's called every kind of name that there is for something that she did not choose to happen to her.
mm.
Or that she's even gone to report. I have heard of women who will accuse their own children of trying to break up their marriage because their husband is sleeping with their child. That is this evil child? She wants to chase me out of my husband's house. Like, are you serious? You are actually taking the side of a grown man over a child and saying the child is at fault. And it goes back to that whole thing about perfection that we as Nigerians want all the time. We want people to see our marriage as perfect. We want people to see our children as perfect. We want people to see our lives as perfect. And therefore, anything that seems like is an imperfection, that's when you now start hearing that, that child has gone on holidays to see grandma. Meanwhile, the child was molested and now has been sent away because the child is the one that has brought shame, when the parents themselves should be the ones that should be ashamed that they were not observant enough to notice that something was going on with their child. They should be the ones who should be ashamed that their child had dropped hint after hint. Because again, I keep saying this, for a lot of children, in my case, I didn't even have the words to articulate that this was what was going on, because I was 5. And there are many kids like that they don't have the language to articulate, but they're trying to tell their parents in the best way that they know that something that shouldn't be happening is happening. And then when things fall apart, the parents blame, society blames the victim. It's about, imagine, bringing shame to me. Look, man, trying to you are the one who has embarrassed and disgraced your family name by not seeing what's happening with your kid. And this whole thing of, if a young boy is being molested, he is becoming a man. What it does to the boy's psyche, and then they'll say, they're Yoruba diamonds. Why won't they be diamonds when they're already messed up from when they're children? Dr. Chris, I can see you coming in and out. Please, there's something I want to speak to you about, and I don't want to take you down a lane that you might not like, but you are a survivor, because I don't like to call people who have gone through this thing as victims. I don't see myself as a victim. I see myself as a survivor. How long did it take you, or maybe it didn't affect you at all, because some people, they're so mentally strong that maybe the effect is quite minimal. I don't know if Dr. Chris, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
So how long did it take for you to overcome that, to get to a place where you're like, okay, even though I know it's affected me to some extent, or maybe it hasn't affected, I just wanted to share your experience, if that's okay
Okay.
with you. If it's not, then it's fine.
Mine was minor compared to what when you grow up later you hear story about, and of course this we all had this concept which still happens now of having some house help who takes care of kids and all that. And many with our parents way back, they were so occupied with work. Both your parents work. It's not now where sometimes one family, one parent doesn't work. When you have an educated couple, they compete for who brings in money to the family. And in my own case, of course, I was too young and I didn't really understand what was going on. I just thought, what's
Mm,
happening? Is this part of life? Somebody's giving you a bath and she's doing all sorts of things, and then how babies are. As you get, I start asking myself, I'm not a baby. Why are they still doing touching me all over the place as if I'm a child?
mm,
And it's later on you get to, and of course, we all grew up and started when we started having our sexual urges. We started listening to stuff like that. So mine was minor compared to, I mean, stories I shared with people. But as a guy, it was an awful thing to experience because
mm,
somebody is touching you in a way that you don't want that person to touch. And you just feel that when you reflect, you find out that it is something that has happened. And it just says that look, it goes both ways. It's something
mm,
that men, it's something that can happen to women and boys and girls, and all those kind of things. Then later on, when I went to a male school, all male
mm,
school, you know, there you started seeing, and then you are seeing male abuses.
mm,
Somebody who is maybe much older, maybe somebody in upper six or lower six, somebody who's already like 16, 17, abusing a fellow same-sex guy who's just entered secondary school, or
maybe 10.
10. Light goes and everybody runs to the there's light wasn't as bad as it is now, but way back then we used to have some station where light goes, everybody runs to the field. So you had a lot of people who were also molesting them. And in a secondary school which my brother went to, which was a mixed school, that was quite rampant with
Mm,
senior boys molesting very small girls, inside the school and all those kind of things. So those are just some experiences I can remember from childhood that were not so pleasant. But we didn't have any culture of speaking.
no.
There's a culture of, I mean, you can't, like Mr. H said, I wish what you said happens in South Africa happens here. Here
Yes.
we don't have rules. A lot of things just happen. You don't have, like you said, when you said police, just quickly you dial a number and police comes to rescue you and all that. That is way way out of here. Like you said, there was a senator who was abusing somebody and all that. You know, you people do have pool parties where there are older men who are. I mean, I've heard of a pool party where there are older men who are like. Ages of about 45, 50, and they have young girls who are like maybe secondary school girls in the pool swimming
40,
at
50.
15, and then people are there, they're there drinking their champagne, smoking their cigars, and the girls are all there in the pool swimming, and these boys are getting some kind of sexual drive from watching them. And then of course when later on everybody runs away with one of them. I've heard of such incidents happened maybe a couple of years back, and I ask myself, what is that? So there are really no rules that or laws, to say, okay, if you get arrested. I like that concept when Mr. H said if you are caught, they put you in prison for like 3 years first for you to learn your lesson.
Exactly. You just go and be thinking about your life there.
I mean, if you are in prison for 3 years, by the time you come out, I don't think you even have an not anymore, because you'll be like, not going to go near anybody again, you know. So those are just my
And
little
even
comments.
when people know that it's easy to be caught, it's easy to, like, it's not like I can harass a child and that child is gonna keep quiet because parents are clued in, the community is clued in. So because it's this thing of, and unfortunately, sorry to break into what you're saying, Dr. Chris. I think why sexual molestation for children thrives. It's not that it just happens, it thrives in Nigeria is number one, the police. The kind of stupid questions that they ask.
Yes.
That and is almost is a questioning of shame. Is a
Yes.
questioning to shame you.
Yes.
You the parent, you the child. That is number one. Number two is this thing of ha. So we will now be known in the community as the family that our child got. And it's like, really, are you putting your so-called name that already is in the model, whether people know or don't know, that one member of your family has been hurt like that, your family name is already in the mud, and you're putting that above the mental care, the mental health of that child. Because just like you were saying, Prof, you're small, somebody is doing something that you don't want to be done to you, they're doing it. And what happens, like in my case, after some time is you're enjoying it, aren't you? It's almost like forcing you to agree
Yes.
that you're enjoying it.
And it's kind of very sick people.
Like, you're enjoying it, aren't you? I was like, I know you're enjoying it. I was like, no. And after some time, because especially if they have unfettered access to you, there's nobody stopping them. After a point in time, you just break down, and go, yeah, it's fine, it's fine. Yeah, whatever you do. Let me go away. You know, and I don't understand it. I don't think I will ever understand it. And when you hear people with children now say, it's like this, and they will always find some reason. It's because it's single mothers. It's because of what they are wearing. It's because of, and there's no reason that's ever going to be good enough. There is no explanation that is ever going to be good enough. And then you see some people pretending like if this thing just happens in social media age, all the house helps that will suddenly disappear in our lives or in the community. You're living in a block of flats, there's a house help that's been there, all of a sudden, from they disappear. You don't see them again. Or next thing, you see the madam beating the girl, saying she's a witch, she's this, she's that, da, 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 da. Or you just see the girl pregnant. Next thing, the girl has gone somewhere. Or the people's family, next thing, you just hear, okay, she's somewhere, she's not been set up to have her own shop and everything. And people don't understand that it's the victim. In fact, when I think back to, because I grew up in a, I grew up in the GRA, and there are blocks of flats there, right? And when I think about how many house helps disappeared around our neighborhood, or how many house helps were taken for deliverance, or were beaten by their madam, or things like that, and you just wonder, this thing has been going on for a long time. A long, long, long time. But we didn't have the language to articulate it. And even when some people found the language, they were shamed into silence. And the crazy thing is that the perpetrator rarely gets any kind of blame. You were talking last week about someone who caught her husband putting his male member in their child's mouth. And the marriage is still standing. You're muted, sir. You're muted, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, it's true, and I was muted. Sorry. Yes, because you can imagine, marriage is still standing because the fact that the man doesn't want to be ashamed and the woman doesn't want to get shamed. And then you can imagine the impact on that child. She
Hmm.
can never, and imagine that you'll be looking at this daddy, what kind of daddy is that? And that's why a lot of girls are are harmed right from the beginning of life. They are harmed, and they don't do well. They are injured, and then you say, okay, the girl is promiscuous or she's wayward. When you
Who
talk
started it?
who started it, when you talk about dressing, that dressing is another thing. You see what people, you look at what the Beyonce and all these Nicki Minaj and co wear, and then somebody they wear it indoors, and or within a few society, and you see it. A lot of people will put that on a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old.
Exactly, the sexualization of children.
The child is like weighing nothing. I mean, I go to some when my kids are, one is 17, one is 14. Way back when I used to take them to birthday parties, pre-COVID and early on in life. I make sure my children are looking decent. And then you get there, you see the celebrants, maybe one 10-year-old or 11-year-old, they are changing her like every other 30 minutes, to wear a new dress. And then you get there, you say, see what these guys are putting on their child. And the child looks at it as if it's part of it. And then there's one sick guy there who is enjoying it, and that's how it is, because girls can be exposed, and the girl probably thinks that that's the way to dress, and then she carries that dressing, and of course there are some guys who look at those things and they get turned on by such things. So you're already selling that person, out, so parents must do a lot to try and protect their kids, because even now many parents have so many jobs, they are hardly around, and most people even toss their children out to boarding house as early as even in primary school, so they don't even know what happens to their children until it's too late. So big concept of it. And with child abuse goes with other things. These children start using drugs, start using different brand.
Because they want to forget.
They want to,
They know that something that is not right is happening.
want to lift their spirits. Some of them feel very bad that what has happened to them is dehumanizing. So it goes with all those kind of things. They don't do well in school. They don't reach their full economic or academic
Potential.
potentials. And with the web now, you have to watch what your children are using or where or doing. I mean, I have some stick friends who send you videos and they don't realize that what they've sent is child abuse or child
Yeah.
pornography. Yes, they send it to you. I mean, each time I have to travel out of Nigeria, especially if I'm going to Asia, I take a new phone because I don't know what may be on my phone. And so many,
Exactly.
each time I have to travel out, a few weeks ago, I was out of the country. I put my SIM inside the new phone, put my some because when you get to some of these countries, they scan your phone, and you'll be surprised that you don't know what somebody has sent to you, because you keep on downloading a lot of things, and they can be offensive, can go to jail without you knowing. Thank you so much.
Professor Chris, I don't know if you remember one time in something that you and I are in, and somebody was talking about watching the video of the child from Chrisland, that
Yes,
girl that, and I couldn't even help I said, I'm sorry, you're a grown person watching
yes,
child porn.
and the guy got
That's
offended.
disgusting.
Yes,
You
you know,
remember and it was like
he
but
said
it was like,
he didn't say anything wrong with what you are saying.
yeah, he did not see anything. He was like, mm.
Yeah,
And it's child porn, and you're a
yeah,
grown person
yes.
who is respected,
Hmm?
and you went and actively hunted for the video,
Yeah, I came to
and
put
then
it in.
watched it, and came to give your own perspective.
Yes,
And I just knew in my heart that I don't want to ever meet that person,
yeah, yeah,
because I'm like, because anything that makes an adult brain comfortable with watching a child, then to me, there's something fundamentally wrong. And I don't want to be around that kind of person. And they'll say, should be they just sent it and I opened it by accident. People have sent me videos that or things that I've just opened and like, oh, and I immediately and someone still sent me a video of a man beating his wife, like seriously beating her. So I'm still looking at that going, oh, this is horrible. I was just about to text and say, this is horrible. And next they showed where the woman just picked up a gun and emptied the entire gun on him. I couldn't even look at it. I just quickly switched it off and I said, please, I have told you, don't send me this kind of things. Do not send me this kind of things. I will block you. Don't send me this kind of, because apart from the psychological thing that it does, to me, it's just not something that should be shared. And it's like, especially with us Nigerians, I know a family here in Bolton that they ended up being interrogated by the police because of something somebody in Nigeria sent to them that had child pornography in it. And the what saved them was that the wife had texted the man and said, please, can you stop sending this kind of crazy things to our phone? And the man's response was, what is it? You're not trying to be more British than the British. It's because they complained and the text was still there. That's what saves them from going to jail. And you know, sometimes when you're telling Nigerians, this thing, you know, they'll be like, oh, please, oh, because you're not in diaspora, you don't want us to hear word. But in a country that has a conscience, that has a heart, that has a mind, a logical mind, that shouldn't be something that is like, oh, it's only Oyibo people that do that. As long as there are children in our midst, we should be protecting the children. Someone's just said here, Zainab said, some will say they watch it to know, or is it see what happened to that child? Like, seriously, it's child porn. But in this country, anything goes. They get away with it. Yes, Zainab, you're very correct. Zainab is a lawyer, so she knows what she's talking about. And she's based in Nigeria. You know, it's crazy. You hear full-grown adults say, I just want to see it. What are you looking at? What are you looking for? What are you seeing in children?
Yeah.
We've actually reached time for us to be closing. We have about 3 minutes. So Mr. H, is there anything else you want to add? Because we are talking about the problem, but I'm really about people understanding the effect on the victims. And then what can we, I'm not a parent, but I'm in society and very observant when it comes to children. So what can we, in your opinion, do? And I know that it seems like, and please understand me, Doctor and Mr. H, I'm not attacking men in any way, because I'm advocating even for the boy child, that look, this also happens to boys. However, this happens to girls more. And you will see men having these conversations. I met one sweet girl. If you see that girl, and they'll be talking to their fellow men. And I'm like, maybe if they got more shamed, when their man is like, how old did you say the girl is? 16. God forbid. You are disgusting. In fact, I don't want to sit with you. Or something. Maybe then men won't be comfortable doing these things. And this value on money, this extraordinary value on parents will send their child and be like, we need the money. No, I don't know. I'm trying to keep my head together. Mr. H, what are your thoughts, please? Let's hear your closing thoughts. Mr. H.
Yeah.
Hey.
So what I think it's actually a very bad thing in the society, and the impact it has on the victim is that it takes away the self-worth and dignity of the victim, because sometimes you see that the victim loses confidence in themselves, and they lose confidence in the society that should have protected them against this thing. And some people, you hear people commit suicide because of this, or people become withdrawn, or you can see that sometimes some children don't do well in education anymore because they can't cope well anymore because they think that their dignity has been stripped away from them, and this
Mm,
cause them to lose self-esteem, and they can't excel in their in areas of life that they should excel. These are all the negative impact on this, and we need to begin to educate ourselves more. Parents
mm,
need to begin to, especially the mothers and the fathers, we need to stand up, and the government need to enact strict laws,
mm,
because like as I said in South Africa here, there is a model for it. There are steps for it. It's not something that you need to go anywhere to announce it. Immediately you get to the police station now, they have a section of the police station that they give you the rape kit immediately. I've been there, I've seen it. They give it to you,
mm,
it's there. They have it in the store. When you get there, you just say you suspect. You just say you suspect, or you bring a child, you say I suspect. Immediately they give you the kit and they give you the file number and they drive you straight to the section of their hospital that they begin to test you. Immediately, they don't ask you question because they don't want to tamper with evidence, because this everything, because at the end of the day, you don't want to go and keep somebody in prison for 3 years and later you come back and say he didn't rape. So they don't, if that kind of thing happen, they take you and deal with it immediately. They don't want any evidence to be tampered with, and it's free of charge. So the government needs to help us too, and the parents need to cry out loud for this
mm.
pedophile to be put behind bars. It's not justifiable to molest anybody, either male or female. Is wrong. That's my take on
Mm.
the matter.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And you were saying something, and something popped into my mind. Sometimes in Nigeria, again, I'll speak only about the country I know. There's there's um there's focus on the wrong priority. We're so focused on religion. We are focused on, you see parents coming out, they want to teach our children how to become transgender. They want to teach them about LGBTQ. They want to, but sex education, so that your child will know that, okay, if somebody comes to meet them at their body is their body, nobody should touch them. You don't want them to know, but you are more concerned about something that most likely will not happen unless that child is inclined that way anyways. But that's the one we focus on. It's a sin before God. But a child being molested is not a sin. You looking the other way while your child is being molested is not a sin. Your child coming to tell you something and you beating the child because you are embarrassed is not a sin. And it just blows my mind. It really does blows my mind. um Dr. Chris, so part of your closing thoughts, I want to please also talk about this, because I remember, excuse me, I remember when I came out to talk about what happened to me. The one of the many things that people said was, after how many years? Over 30 years. It's not that you're not coming to talk. Because the person has now become big and famous. You want to bring them down. Mm. Like, I don't, like, oh, you want to disgrace them. You want to so is there an age limit to the damage caused to a victim? Is there age that psychologically, now scientifically, they should be over whatever happened to them as children? And then please also, talk about what you think we can do to bring about this crazy situation. We can start to arrest it.
Thank you very much. I think the impact on that child could be, it's like drugs. You can taste your first marijuana and you get hooked on it. Or it can be a continuous thing and damage doesn't get done to it, to you or to that person. Sometimes the way it happens may damage that child. Many times the victim knows who it is. So if the victim knows who it is, it's not always incest. Sometimes somebody around who maybe an uncle or neighbor or somebody starts doing it. So because that child usually is comfortable with that person initially, and that person uses the opportunity to take over or override that person. There's not always the one that you see that somebody just catches somebody and rapes. Or, of course, rape can be there. But when it comes to most times abuse, it's probably somebody they know. So the damage can be so flourishing that it can really affect the child. And it can be so bad, like what Mr. H said, the child may not be able to reach the good potential. So the impact can really vary. And one has to really watch that child. Now, in terms of what can be done, I like the idea of trying to, if you can do laws in very good countries, if you can restrict or restrain what people say, so that if people do or say things, then they can get punished. Punitive measures can be done. The area of disgrace. I mean, nowadays with social media, I think social media is helping a lot, because if this kind of thing, if somebody catches somebody now abusing a child and it's proven, even if it's not proven, that person can be embarrassed.
Mm.
I watched a video recently of a girl who was harassed by a man the man was actually a lawyer, and I can't remember which state it was now. And they didn't even wait for anybody. It was just jungle justice. They stripped the guy naked. They
A
paraded him on.
lawyer.
Yes, I think a lawyer or somebody, but an educated guy, who was having
Mm.
this with this girl. It was sometime last year, and they didn't even jungle justice, just like used to happen those days in Ajegule and all those places when they catch armed robbers. Jungle justice, before you try to explain, yeah, 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 almost there. Look at the Ife lecturer that they disgraced, that was harassing a girl for
Mm.
marks and all that. I mean, I know people that are close to that guy. Guy was a pastor. That was the end of him, you know. And then of course you have to be very careful. Sometimes people can set you up. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen this video recently where the girl is a skit where the girls go, this guy is sleeping, and then some girls come to meet him in the house and say, there's something like there's fire in the next house, blah blah blah. And the guy got himself together. He went there to go and find, or somebody had fainted, went to the other house, lay down with the girl, who tried to revive the girl who was fainting, and that girl grabbed him and was shouting rape, 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 rape. And that's how they disgraced the guy. And of course the wife came and slapped him at the head. So nowadays with videos, with internet, one has to really be careful.
Mm.
Sometimes there's a lot of things that happen now with people who are trying to blackmail people. So you need to also
But
be
that is
careful.
in adult molestation,
No, no,
adult cases.
not
Adult, not
necessarily,
not
not necessarily that
no,
adult case. Not necessarily.
children can't really be setting up an adult now, can they?
So they will push that child. They will push that child. They can push that child to you. And sometimes people do it to try and get something in return. So I know it happens instantaneously, like we all know that happens instantaneously. We all know that men are perverted and all those kind of things. But people have to be on the watch out too, with these things. So people are aware. People are looking at ways to extract money from people. So when a child is sometimes being very friendly, you sometimes have to be on your guard too. Those are just my
Yeah, but
closing remarks.
okay. I just want, because I don't want people coming around and going, I was a set up. If whatever case that makes you a grown man become naked in the presence of a child,
You
to
should,
me,
that
it's
is
no
not,
longer a set. It's no longer a setup.
not acceptable at all. That is not
Anything that's
acceptable.
making you bring out your sexual member, whatever, in the presence of a child, I don't want to hear. There's no setup there.
That is not acceptable. But
Uh-huh.
acceptable. But I'm just saying that with social media, some people have to be on guard too, so that they don't get blackmailed. Because people can push people into it. And once you are labeled a victim, whether it's true or not, it's damaging. Or when you are labeled a molester, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's or not, it is damaging. Like Mr. H said, the first thing they do, they take you in there. I've had to go to court before when, of course, somebody raped somebody. And in Nigeria, you don't have all these rape kits, blah, 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 and all that.
Mm.
And I had to go and testify in court. And even after I testified, I was scared that this people should not come after me. You know,
Mm,
somebody, a little girl, and they were asking us, the lawyer was asking us, did you take forensics? What test did you do? What, how did you get the psychologist? And all those kind of things. So it is damaging. And that person who was accused, imagine getting to court and going through all the, of course, people came out to say that he's been doing it, you know.
mm.
So it can be very damaging. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time. Honestly, thank you so much, Dr. Chris. Really value every, moment that you have spent here. Now, I just want to go through the comments before we close. So, Cheryl Torres said, hello all. Then Django Fett said, hello. Because I started late, I apologize again. I started late because today was a bit of a rough day for me health-wise. So I couldn't get here on time. Then Cheryl Torres said, no problem, we're happy you're here. Thank you so much, Cheryl, because sometimes it's like, hey, God, you know. And then Cheryl said, health first. Then she said, I was on an IG live yesterday when this was being discussed. A man told his story and others followed. It should be an ongoing conversation for sure. And that's the thing. Men need to start speaking out about this thing. And men need to start like really addressing it, that it is not a rite of passage for a boy to be molested by their house help or something. It's not a rite of passage. No child should be knowing about sex, and that's it. Shouldn't be physically experiencing sex in any way, shape, or form. Then she also said, even babies as young as 3 months old, unimaginable, but it's happening. Then Zainab Atta said, good evening. And she said, I have had conversations with male friends who were sexually molested before they became teens and even as teenagers. And they say, I enjoyed it. I find that sad because it's conditioning. When they're saying, did you enjoy it? You enjoyed it, didn't you? You enjoyed it. It's conditioning. They're conditioned to see it as normal and not sexual abuse because they enjoyed it. Then she said, a culture of silence, stigmatize. Hey, I can't speak English today. A culture of silence, stigmatization, shame, and poverty enables child abuse. She says, it is never about what the woman wears. I live in northern Nigeria. Women/girls in full hijab get molested. Full hijab means that they're covered from head to toe. Get molested. Babies as young as a year and below are also get defiled. So if you are saying a woman is going around naked and and that is why there's decadence in our community, okay, what about babies? What about women who are covered from top to toe who are still being defiled? The problem isn't what the women are wearing. The problem is the society, the mindset that a woman's body is for the pleasure of a man. That's the problem. Then Cheryl said, I've heard that story as well, that men think sex with a virgin will cure sickness. That's to support what you were saying, Mr. H. And then Zainab said, some will say they watch it to know, or is it see what happened to that child? Like seriously, it's child porn. But in this country, anything goes. They get away with it. It's sad that we will look at our country and know that that is the modus operandi. And then Cheryl said, sad conversation, but awareness is knowledge. And hopefully, corrective action can come from it. This is why we are insisting and pushing the conversation that hopefully government will be shamed into making laws. Maybe that's the only way. We will make our government ashamed that they have to make laws just to keep us quiet. That, okay, we have made the laws, and not just making the laws, but enforcing it. Training police officers, putting police officers in a situation that if they ask stupid questions, they can lose their jobs. So that then they are thinking, okay, I better not ask this stupid question. Let me just, let me just do what I'm supposed to do. Then Zainab said, one of the things we can do, well, now we're looking at solutions now. One of the things we can do is to be friends with our children. Make them tell you anything and everything. Many perpetrators threaten the children not to say what happened. Also giving children sex education. Yes, sex education according to their age. Nobody should touch you. Your body is your own. Nobody has any right to access your body against your will. Then she also said it is more about enforcement of the law, not just enacting the law. Now she's a lawyer, so she's talking that it's not just about the law being there, but the enforcement of it, the enforcement of that law. And then she also said, in a very recent case, one silly man who is a pastor called me to say a young boy was wrongly accused, and the police said my organization was in charge, only for me to discover that the boy molested this child. The pastor was trying to cover up because the boy is from his tribe and also a member of his congregation. Again, religious leaders, we have everybody in society has a role to play in ending this scourge that is going on in our communities, that is going on in our country. We can't keep saying, oh, because this person is from my place, they'll do something evil and we want to rescue them. No, they need to face the full measure of the law. They need to face the punishment. If they can do the crime, then they should be able to do the time. End of story. And then finally, she says, we have a lot of laws in Nigeria. Many people are not aware. Then enforcement is a big headache. Again, we have to get to that place where we shame, because it looks like shaming the police, shaming the government, shaming Senate, shaming the lawmakers. That's what's going to get some progress to happen. Because you just hear people doing this, oh, well, we met it on this earth and we shall leave it on this earth, and all the stupid things that people say to justify evil. Anyways, those are all the comments. Dr. Chris, don't go anywhere because we have the after party. Mr. H, don't go anywhere. We have the after party. But just want to say thank you. I felt we didn't need to drag this, and since we just have the panel, then we keep it like that. I didn't feel that it was something to be dragging back and forth. We wanted it to be very concise, something that was straightforward to the point, something that hopefully we expect people to share this video, this particular one. You might not have shared anything we've done before, but please share last week's and share this week's own, so that we can start having more of these conversations. Because as long as one child isn't safe, then no child is safe. You might carry your children and go and keep them in one private school, and it will be inside that school that thing will happen. We have to collectively put our hands together to start dealing with this problem from every angle.
Just like the Chrisland saga.
Yeah. So some people be like, it got nothing to do with me. I'm sending them to a Christian school. I'm sending them to a private school. And it will happen there. You could send them on holiday. And it could happen there. Maybe they send, isn't it out of the country the thing happened? You could say. So until every child is safe, no child is safe. And the only way we can ensure that our children will be safe is for all of us to start having this conversation and then start acting, start doing the right thing. You see your neighbor who is standing there calling one small girl his wife. Hey, what rubbish is that? Go and look for a woman your age. Attacking these things from every angle that we see. And that's the only way we can go forward. That's the only way we can, at least start bringing about some closure to this nonsense, because too many people have been damaged. At least out of 3 people who sat here talking today, 2 had been molested. Isn't that sad? And just look at that. So please, let's start having these conversations. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for your patience. Thank you to all the people who are silently watching, because I got accused last week that the silent watchers, Dr. Senu. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Truly appreciate you. Until we do this again, same time, same place. And I promise next week we will not be late. We will be on time. Take care and God bless. Bye.